This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in our Los Angeles Bureau today, and we're joined by Cliff Numark. He is a trustee with the El Camino Community College District, which serves where?
In the South Bay of Southern California.
Tell us about El Camino CCD.
El Camino was founded in 1947 in the South Bay. We serve residents throughout Southern California, principally in the South Bay, Inglewood, Torrance, Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach. Our entire district represents about 500,000 people.
Wow.
We have about 33,000 students,
okay.
19,000 full-time equivalent. And it's a fantastic source. It is really representative of the incredible diversity of Southern California. 50% Latino, about 15% African American, 16% Asian. So and we have a great number of foreign students as well, international students. So it's really great.
One college campus?
So we have one college campus. We also
called El Camino.
Called El Camino College,
right.
And we also, because of some issues that occurred in the early part of 2000s, we are responsible for the Compton Center.
Right, I was aware of that, an accreditation issue for them.
Yep.
I want to talk about the cost of education.
Yeah.
Community college education. I remember the days, I think it was in the 80s, when community college was free. It's not free anymore.
No.
During the Great Recession, we saw tuition go up from $36 a unit to $46 a unit, so it spiked a bit. Still a good deal, though. We're still the cheapest in the nation.
Yeah.
But talk us through the challenges of trying to keep up with tuition expenses.
Sure.
You know, it's about $1,000 a year, but that's real money.
Yeah, it is real money.
Yeah.
So, I think that folks have to, with what's happening in society today, people think very differently about their educational choices, right? So back in the day, right, people might have said, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'll go to a community college, right? What I think folks are recognizing right now, regardless of where you are in the spectrum, whether maybe you weren't such a great student in high school, maybe you're a great student in high school, maybe you just want to learn a trade. Community college represents an incredible opportunity for all kinds of folks from all different paths.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I can remember the days where community colleges were second chance institutions. Yeah. Now there are plenty of students, they'll go to a community college because smaller classes, they want to be close to home, and then they can transfer to a great UC or USC or Stanford or whatever it may be, and it's a very respectable path.
Absolutely. Actually, your chances of getting into a UC is greater if you go to a community college than if you go directly
Especially the elite UCs.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
absolutely
amazing.
I think to get into UC Berkeley, the average admission rate is 21%. If you transfer from a community college, it's 27% on average.
That's nice.
Right? And in addition to that, there's a number of community colleges, including El Camino, that have honors transfer programs, which have all kinds of bells and whistles to enhance the likelihood that someone's actually going to get in.
So during the Great Recession, community colleges were really struggling. And I remember reading stories about kids that would go, they'd take one class at El Camino, they'd take another class at Long Beach Community College, and they'd come up to SMC to take a class because they couldn't get their classes. Governor Brown has been very specific about trying to increase funding for K-12 and K-14. What we know is that Prop 30, which provided for revenue for K-12 and K-14, we're going to see some changes. The sales tax element, that is going away no matter what. The quarter-cent sales tax is going away. The tax on the wealthiest, that will be on the ballot in November. Talk to me about if you have any concerns about the elimination of the sales tax portion or even the tax on the wealthiest.
Sure. So community colleges like K-12 in California largely follow the economic path of the state of California. So when the recession, when folks were having challenges finding courses, it's because basically community colleges were closing off classrooms because they could not afford to keep the classrooms open because of the state funding issues. So state funding is critical to the success or the viability of community colleges. In addition to that, we have long-standing, well-known pension obligations that effectively will double twice what they were. So because of the lack of returns that CalSTRS and CalPERS are getting from their investments.
I mean, they've been saying they expect returns of between 7 and 8%, and they're getting, what, 1?
Last
2?
year, CalPERS had a 0.61% return. So, so literally in a community, and at El Camino, we paid $4 million for CalSTRS and $3 million for CalPERS over the course of a year. Fast forward to 21, that number doubles. So basically, we went from a $6 million obligation to a $12 million obligation.
So what do we do?
Right, that's the challenge. So the financial viability of the community college system, I think, frankly, needs to be looked at writ large.
Well, what about, I mean, this may be beyond our pay grade, but pensions.
Sure.
I mean, look, I don't want to bash public employees because I think they do a great job, but it's hard to deny that public pensions are very generous. I mean, there are two-tier systems now, so less generous, but do we need to evaluate the pension system in your mind?
So I would just suggest that knowing that there are limits on what colleges can do, other principally state-funded institutions can do, we should think about banking that money to pay for stuff when the next recession will hit. We know these obligations are coming, no ifs, ands, or buts. So I think that there should be a policy priority to effectively pay for this, put it in a lockbox. That was a term from the 90s.
Thank you, Al Gore.
Yep. Put it in a lockbox so that we know that the colleges have a financial future. Because literally, if a recession hits, it will make the matters that we experienced this last recession much worse.
I was stunned when I read the following. The cost to attend a community college in California is about $1,100 a year.
Yeah.
Not bad. The cost for books and supplies, about $1,700.
Yeah.
In other words, it's more expensive to get your books and supplies than it is to be educated.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting dilemma.
Well, two things before we go into the actual cost. Number one is, how does community college, to your point earlier, about how it fits within the broader educational spectrum, right? So $1,100 a year versus about $5,000 for a CSU versus $6,000 for right? Versus $12,000 for a UC. So you ask yourself, if you're thinking, if you have to make tough financial choices, this is a very good financial choice to make.
But can we do anything about the cost of textbooks?
So so within the context of making choices, there are opportunities to reduce the cost of textbooks. It's called Open Educational Resource, and effectively uses open source texts, non-copyrighted texts that are out there, to serve as the aid to faculty members. Now, it requires faculty members to get effectively divorced from the textbooks that they've been relying on for years and years and years.
And you know, these textbook publishers, they are very effective salespeople.
Absolutely. And you know what? They're producing great products, but there are opportunities. Will the answer be that there will not be any textbook publishers ever? No, of course not. They add value. But there may be classes that are so they're so regimented in terms of what they're offering.
Well, history doesn't change.
Correct.
History does not change.
Exactly right. Certainly there are different ways of looking at it, but honestly, there are ways that, and many colleges across the country have approached this. So this is we're not quite on the bleeding edge. The governor has put forth a number of challenge grants. One was $3 million last year, $5 million this past year. So there are opportunities, and really what it takes is for faculty members to look to see what else is out there. So it's not like every single college inventing their own issue, right? Leveraging the broader source throughout the whole country, for that matter, and actually redesigning courses to look at textbooks that are not necessarily tied to something that the student has to pay for. I mean, what the data shows is that 50% of students are dropping out because they can't afford the textbooks. Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Or even worse, some students stay in the class, but they don't buy the textbook. So how are they supposed to do well in the course if they don't actually have the resource that they can utilize? So that's why OER is a real opportunity. It does require a lot of work in most colleges throughout California, including El Camino. The faculty are the ones that determine curriculum. So that's a real opportunity for us to really provide value to the students.
I'd like you to come back in a few months and talk about the future of these OER programs. It's important. Cliff Numark from El Camino, Brett Pomerance, Local Edition.